Hello, and welcome to One Cool Thing, PC Mag's daily show where we talk to you about one cool thing that we've been testing out here in PC Labs. I'm Tom Brandt, this is Matt Buzzy, and here we have the Microsoft Surface Book 2.
Yes, in all its glory. Review day's here, order day is here. You can buy it now.
Yes.
Pre-order no longer. It'll ship to you tomorrow if you order. This is Surface Book 2. You could be forgiven for thinking it's the first one at a glance. Looks similar.
Right.
It sure looks similar. But this is actually a much larger screen. This is a 15-inch screen. It was 13.5 before. You can still get a 13.5-inch version. But yeah, 15, it's here to stay. It's bigger. It's better. If you have any questions at all about it, put them in the comment section. We'll try to answer them.
Yeah, please do ask any questions. We actually, as we said here, we have the larger version of the Surface Pro. It is on sale now. What's the price on this?
So the price on this is $3,300. The starting price for the 15-inch one is $24.99. So that scales. The only difference in that is the storage. So you have 3 different options for the storage as you order the 15. Same for the 13.5-inch. You can order 3 different storage, and that's just one SSD. It's 256, it's 512, or it's a terabyte.
But essentially, we are talking about a significant cash outlay for the Surface Book, which is why many people aren't going to be considering this for their run-of-the-mill laptop to use on their commute or to use at home. This is really for professionals or content creators or people who really want the absolute best components in both a detachable and a laptop configuration.
Yeah, so the more basic thing, if you don't know the Surface Book's whole deal really, is the fact that it's a laptop, it's super nice, it's a Windows MacBook Pro think, but when they first revealed it, they did the whole, oh wait, there's one more thing.
Ta-da!
And it's a tablet. This is only 1.8 pounds when it's separated. It's thin and light. This whole thing's magnesium alloy. It feels great. When it's attached, it's about 4 pounds, so a little heftier. It's not the most super portable thing in the world, but it's
right. And the thing is this is very different than the Surface Pro, which is a bit misleading in the name because that's also geared towards pros, but that really is simply just a tablet with a keyboard that's magnetic.
Yeah, I think that's more of a tablet that tries to be a laptop, and this is more of a laptop that can also be a tablet.
Right, and it really does do both. I think as you'll see in the review, which is up now on PCMag.com, this thing excels at pretty much everything that it tries to do, which it should because it costs over $2,000.
Yeah, it's super pricey, it's super expensive, it's super nice. Yes, it costs a lot going in. That's something you have to accept going in, but we'll get to the components too in a second. We have a question first.
Does it have a DVD drive?
No DVD drive, sadly. No optical tray. As you can see, it is optical drive free. I'm very sorry to disappoint. You can't watch all your hottest DVDs.
But the thing is, this is so thin that you would not be able to fit. I mean, it's almost just a bit thinner than a couple DVDs stacked on one of their. It does, however, have an SD card slot.
It does.
The regular USB ports that you'd expect,
USB-C.
and also USB-C on this side, which it will come in handy when you're dealing with faster hard drives or newer peripherals.
And you could always connect one of those handy external optical trays to one of these USB ports if you're dying to play your DVDs.
Right.
So yeah, getting into the components, why is this so good at everything? It's got a Kaby Lake R Core i7 processor.
So this is the 8th generation Intel processor.
Not quite Coffee Lake, but it's still the new thing. You can get i5, you can configure all the way down to the 13-inch version, and one of the cheaper models, you get an i5. This, though, and all the 15-inch models, other than storage size, all the 15-inch versions have a GTX 1060 from NVIDIA, which is a solid HD gaming card. We'll get into that.
Right.
It's got, as I said, in this version, a terabyte of SSD storage, and it has 16 gigs of RAM, which good for nearly every task. There's a bit of a caveat there for people like video editors who want to chew. Our video guy came over and kind of grumbled about if it was 32, I'd go for it.
Now, is that the system maximum? The 16?
That is, yeah.
So you can't actually add it. You can't configure. As
far as I know, no.
And you certainly can't open this,
no,
right?
This is a pretty sealed dealio.
So that could be a consideration. I mean, on almost any other laptop, we wouldn't even mention that, but because this is such a powerful machine, that could be a consideration.
Yeah, 16 is good for gaming. It's good for most tasks, but there is sort of the caveat that a certain group of people might want more RAM than that, and it could be a deal breaker. 16 is still good and fast. As I said, it did really well on all of our benchmark tests. It's neck and neck with something like the MacBook Pro. They kind of traded blows on the multimedia tests.
Now explain how this is oriented though, because there are some components in the tablet and then there are some in the base, and when do you have to use, how does that work to use those?
So yeah, what you get when you detach it still is the processor, obviously. One of the 2 batteries, one is in the tablet. but the components that stay behind in the base when you detach are the GTX 1060, the graphics card, the larger battery, which makes a big difference, and those obviously that takes it from a fully powered laptop to a tablet.
Right.
It really just is a tablet when you detach it. Speaking of the battery, though, 17 hours on our battery test, which is a video rundown test, playing back video for as long as it goes, and 17 hours is really, really good. The tablet by itself was more like 5, so it has a decent battery in there on its own.
But yeah, I mean, your time may vary, obviously, depending on what you're doing, but 17 hours on our test is very good. I mean, we're talking about like the most well-known, or the models that are notorious for having really long battery life. MacBook Pro, the Surface laptop, which came out earlier this year. I think the MacBook Pro actually has less than 17 hours.
Yeah.
Or is like around 16.
15,
so
15.
this is excellent battery life on our tests. Looks like we got another question.
Indeed.
How is it with gaming?
So, thank you for the segue. Gaming, so the GTX 1060, that is a really solid, usually more, not budget-oriented, but you find it on more mid-range systems than high-end systems. It's for 1080p gaming. It's not for QHD gaming. It's not for 4K gaming, but it is 1080p gaming, and you get 60 frames per second with a 1060. That's people buy specific gaming laptops to get a 1060.
Yeah.
And this has one in it in addition to everything else that it can do.
Right.
So on our benchmark test, it was running 60 frames. There is a battery mode that it has a slider if you select the battery, and it's like a best performance or best battery life. If you crank up to best performance, you do get more frames out of it. So doing that, it got above 60. It peaked into 70. I played some Destiny 2 on it. It ran at once I tweaked the settings just a little from like maximum, I got 60 frames or close to.
And it's interesting to know that that's all built into the system. This isn't an NVIDIA specific. I mean, Microsoft has really tailored the GTX 1060 settings to their needs so that they can control, right? Or is that wrong?
I mean, it's a GTX 1060, but this battery best performance thing.
That's all custom.
It makes a bit of a difference because you don't usually get that slider. Usually it's different battery plans that you just kind of switch to like power saver or balance. This is a bar that's kind of just max it out. If you're going to do something that's graphics or processor intensive, you just want to probably slide that up. But yeah, speaking of 1080p, the screen is a 3200 by 2000. It's a 4K screen if it was a normal 16 by 9 ratio.
Yeah, we don't see laptops like this anymore.
Right. You might not even notice. This is a 3 by spec ratio, which makes things a little funky sometimes. Like Destiny 2 actually had like a bit of a it had like a squash thing, and I kind of had to mess with the resolution before it would max back out. But the 3 by 2 aspect ratio you won't notice most of the time. It hasn't given me trouble. So it's not technically 4K because it's cropped a little bit, but it's the same pixel count as it's the same resolution. Per se.
Now, what if you do want to attach an external monitor? This is not. Is there Thunderbolt 3 in here, so you can?
It's not a Thunderbolt 3 USB port.
So how do you attach an external monitor?
You can do USB-C non-Thunderbolt if you desire.
Or you can also buy the Surface dock.
Thanks.
Right.
That's where I'm going now. There's a $200 Surface dock. We have a question also.
What's the number of each of the ports?
Of ports, there are, you can see, 2 USB 3.1s on this side and an SD slot, and a USB-C, and then you get the Surface Connect, the Surface connector, which is the power. It's a little strip that kind of goes in there, and that's what you can also use for docking.
And then we have a headphone jack on the tablet itself.
Over here, yeah, the headphone jack is on the tablet, which obviously is a smart decision because if you're going to take the tablet out, you don't want to lose the ability to listen to what you're doing.
Yeah.
So that would have been kind of a silly idea.
So we know you've got questions. If you are watching this live on Facebook right now, please do put your questions in the comments. If you're seeing this later on YouTube or somewhere else, tweet at us or ask us questions. We'll be happy to answer them. Let's take some more questions.
What's the difference between the stylus and the Apple Pen?
That's a good question. I'm not too familiar with the Apple Pen, so I'm going to have trouble answering that because I haven't messed with it on the iPad Pro a lot.
Yeah, neither have I.
Is worth noting though, the Surface Pen is not included with this one. It's a $100 separate purchase, and it's very good for the multi-touch. Since it's what we have one, it's good for the multi-touch, and if you're going to do digital drawing on this,
and it attaches to the side.
Magnetically attaches to the side here. It also works with the Surface Dial, the Microsoft Studio peripheral. So that's another thing that not necessary for a workflow, but if you feel like it's going to improve your what you're doing, go for it.
Yeah, I haven't actually used the Apple Pen either, but compared to a competitor like the Lenovo Active Pen, which is really, really well designed. With it actually feels like you're writing on paper. Tons of pressure points. You actually have to replace the pen on the tip on the Lenovo pen because it wears down because it's really like a pencil. I mean, I think that that's comparable to the Surface pen.
Yeah, that's more or less what it feels like.
Yeah,
it's pretty advanced pen for $100. It's not just like a dumb style, like a dumb pen.
Right.
It has features.
And when you're not using the pen, you've got a pretty good sized glass touchpad, right?
Is
that glass?
Feels nice.
Okay.
Feels nice. The keys also nice to type on. They have a lot of travel without feeling like mushy, and they're kind of like quieter. It's like almost. It's not a weird in a bad way sensation, but it's interesting. It doesn't feel like a lot of other keyboards.
Yeah. The one thing I wish they had done is made a bigger touchpad. I mean,
like rival the MacBook
yeah,
for
because
those
like
enormous trackpad.
Apple kind of sets the trends for touchpad technology, for better or for worse, and it's a very good quality with solid clicks, but it looks small now.
Real estate.
I see this and I'm like, they have a bunch of room here.
I think it's just your hand size. I think that's what's doing it.
I don't know if everyone can see that, but yeah, let's take some more questions.
Is it a Super AMOLED display? And can we sideload games and softwares?
It's not a Super AMOLED display. It's Microsoft's Pixel Sense display. That's whatever that means to you. That's what they've branded the name of their like how Apple calls it Retina display. It's Pixel Sense. It's their own technology. It's a very sharp, crisp display. I should mention too that thank you for reminding me about the display. Because you can do this. It's not because this made me think of the hinge and it made me think of the display.
Yeah.
So you have this tablet. Right like that. Yes, it goes on like this. I forgot to show you that you can also put it on backwards to kind of mimic the like idea of the other convertible laptops on the market,
so
which
like a
they have modes like this, which I found is good.
Yeah, that's actually very nice.
This is good for like airplane trays. Yeah. Is my favorite way to use this, which is why that there's this weird hinge that people don't like that it leaves a gap when it's closed. But the positive is you get this and you can do this. So
and you can also set it up like a tent.
Yeah. So like why would you want to do this as opposed to just taking it off using a tablet? This way you still keep the battery and the components inside attached to the screen.
Right.
So that's another sort of weird feature that people that should be the answer to the question of why does the hinge look the way it does?
Yeah.
Because it goes fully flat and you couldn't really accomplish that with a normal hinge.
Right, so you can actually stick things in here, which seems weird at first.
I think that's why people don't like it. They don't like the gap because they're worried about like debris getting in or something.
Yeah.
But I haven't really had a problem with it.
We missed a question about gaming, I think.
Yeah, what was the other part of that? The second part of that question, can you sideload games? Is that what you asked me?
Could we sideload games and software?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Side loading. Yeah.
Side
you'll have to clarify
extrapolate.
that. We'll get back to you on that one. Let's take another question.
What would be the difference of software installed through, say, the Windows Store in the tablet environment versus installing through, say, your browser in the desktop environment?
So yeah, so there's the Windows Store makes it, which I've mostly experienced in using Netflix, because that's like the only Windows Store app I use regularly. The difference is it runs in like a closed program environment off the Windows Store. So if you're trying to do, say, Netflix's offline browsing feature, you can't do that just in the browser. There's no save for offline in Netflix's browser.
You need the app.
You need the app. You gotta go to the Windows Store. It runs in its own closed environment. That way you see the button, it says download, it's in the app, you navigate through the app, not the browser. So it's different things. The apps have like Xbox app has integration across to the Xbox, so if you're signed in on both, it kind of does.
Pull up the store right
here.
here.
Here's the store for you.
You can see all the different options. It's really like the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. I mean, if you were to buy a much cheaper Windows laptop now that comes with Windows 10s, it's a new version of Windows that locks you to only using apps from the App Store, then you supposedly are going to have a more secure system because you're not going to be worrying about rogue apps that have viruses in them because Microsoft tests everything that they sell on the Apple Store. Or I'm sorry, on the App Store.
Whoa, another question.
Slip there.
How's the camera?
It's good. It's actually, there's one there. There's also a rear camera. I don't know. I didn't mention that.
Yeah, if you
it's
are
on the corner, which might be weird to some people. I feel they obviously didn't want to interrupt the design flow here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to see. It's on the very, very edge. I mean, if you're the kind of person that takes
decent display. Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be
photos
like your photo
with your
device.
tablet. I mean, stay off of my vacation. I don't.
Right, it's quality enough. I don't know if it's don't go and make it your main camera.
Don't expect this to take. It's not iPhone or.
That was a good segue though. It's pretty good quality. I should get back to that. It is pretty good quality.
Yeah.
Here's looking at you. It's actually pretty sharp. That made me laugh because
720p on the front.
I think so. When you it made me laugh because when I went to search for the camera, it's a Windows Store app.
Right.
So it's not actually it's not a program to answer your question. It's another
Right.
Windows Store app, even the camera. So so there's that. Bye me.
Other questions?
Is there a keyboard available with like a numpad?
With a numpad? No. This is the one size.
Yeah, there is a lot of real estate here, as I was saying before. That
You think they could fit one?
They can't actually fit. Well, so the problem.
Put one here.
The problem with the aspect ratio of this is that it's very square.
Yeah.
So they can't actually fit. I mean, if you had a 15-inch widescreen laptop,
You could
actually put a
Yeah, my
number pad in
15-inch
there.
gaming laptop has a little.
Yeah, or so that is a limitation of the aspect ratio of the screen, but it also means that they're not going to want to put a weird long base and then have it
That would look really funny.
curve up towards the screen.
Like sticks out past. Plus the square size kind of helps the portability. It's a little smaller. It's not quite as big. Also helps tablet mode if you're going to put it in your arm. It's a little more holdable.
Right.
Another question.
Can we get this in a different color?
This is it. Silver magnesium alloy. That's all you got. Looks nice. Obviously, I think it's safe to say inspired by the MacBook's design. Not the hinge, everything but the hinge, I would say.
Microsoft has experimented with different colors for the Surface Pro, for the couple other different
like the Surface type covers and
Surface
things
covers.
Like that, yeah.
So if you do want a different color Microsoft detachable tablet, go with the Surface Pro.
Yeah. Yeah, that's safe to say. Sorry, this is the only color. I can't do anything for you about that.
If you're just joining us, this is the Surface Book 2.
The full-on sequel, which reminds me too. Sorry, go on. Finish what you're saying.
No, please.
I was going to say that reminded me last year they came out. So I nearly forgot about this while I started reviewing. I was like, all right, looking at the original Surface Book, and I forgot I reviewed in 2016 between the first and the second one. They released the performance-based version of the Surface.
Yes, the performance base.
Yes, that's what they called it. And so that was like more in line with what this ends up being. It was like the high-end configured one, and that they put discrete graphics in it, but it was only a 965M. They put an i7 in it, wasn't now there's a newer one. So I really forgot that existed in between.
They've been throwing things out there, trying to see what works. The one thing that they really did, I think, the best thing that they did here is add the 1060 because
For sure.
that's something that you can't get on a MacBook Pro.
No, that's absolutely the biggest gap between the two. If they're even on
and the detachable part, but that's that's a matter of preference.
Right.
If you want that performance, you cannot get it in a Mac Portable.
No, you can't. That's easily the biggest difference between the two, and that takes it from the 965M of the performance-based version. That takes it from like, I can do some stuff to like a real gaming and 3D system, like a truly, it's not a 1080, it's not like the QHD amazing gaming machine, but it's a competent 1080p, 60 frames or close to it gaming experience. So like,
right.
Props for that.
We want to know what you want to know. Tell us some more questions. Bring them out.
How's the durability? Can we do a drop test?
I'm not going to do a drop test with this $3,300 machine. I am sorry to tell you. It feels sturdy and well made, but when there's a big glass screen like this, the last thing you want to do is drop it on something hard.
So let's briefly mention that a couple months ago there was this big brouhaha with Microsoft reliability. Consumer Reports basically came out with the thing that the first time that they were able to actually gather together all of their reliability results for Microsoft laptops. Indicated that they had really bad reliability, like much lower than we had initially thought. That it's very controversial. It actually contradicts what we've seen here at PC Mag with our own surveys, which have said that Microsoft has among the highest satisfaction among you guys, PC Mag readers, for the 5 or so years that they've been selling them. It is an ongoing thing that we continue to look at. But as far as the actual device here, it does feel very sturdy.
Yeah, I'm not gonna toss it, but
we can't do a drop test.
Yeah, sorry.
This is not a Panasonic Toughbook.
No.
Another question.
Are you guys disappointed the design hasn't changed?
I said in my review that as I said, you can confuse the two, and yes, it is the same. I don't think it's a bad thing because I'm not sure what else you do per se with it. B, if it ain't broke, don't fix it sort of approach. It's a little heavier just because the screen size is bigger. It has the beefier components in it. You could, in an ideal dream world, be like, it could be lighter, it could be thinner.
Yeah. But it really can't be with all that stuff in
With
it.
that, I mean, the fact that there's a 1060 in here is
Yeah.
already kind of insane.
And cooling requirements, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's quiet, and it runs long. Like, I mean, I'm not sure what else. Is that too much bezel for some people? Maybe.
Now,
You
yeah,
could do
these days
I
that might
guess.
be. For me though, it really, yeah, I think it's a gorgeous machine. The aspect ratio for me throws me off a little bit.
A little bit.
I think
I kind of wish it was just 16:9.
yeah, when I look at this, I'm like, oh, this is something from 5 or so years ago,
Right.
Which obviously it's not. But that's just a factor of it, or that's just a byproduct of it being a tablet.
Yeah, it's also Microsoft's design philosophy because they did the same thing in the Surface Studio. It's a 3x2 enormous screen. The Surface Studio is their desktop, and it's
Yeah.
a like 20-inch, I forget exactly, display, and it's huge and super high resolution and gorgeous. But it is 3x2. And in speaking of that, Panos Panay at the reveal event was talking about how it more closely mimics paper and kind of a physical drawing experience, and all that may be true, but I think that's more of a niche than people who use it for 16:9, especially
Yeah.
video people, and so it's kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure why they're as married to 3x2 as they are, especially because, as I said, it was causing some resolution funk in games. I had to mess with it a little more than I should have, maybe. Yeah,
More questions?
Do you guys think Microsoft will release a future Surface Book with C-port charging instead of their own charging port?
Maybe. Like Apple, for their own premium products, they seem to prefer these proprietary situations.
Although Apple has moved to USB-C.
Yeah, even Apple, who has adopted the standard, which is unusual for
Yeah.
Apple. So maybe, but they like to do it because it has the docking and it has. It's not hard. It's hard to knock out that cable too. It's a nice, like, it's flush with
Yeah,
it rather
it is.
than it doesn't stick out vertically. It fits in here horizontally.
It's
which
very
is nice.
wide, as you can see.
Yeah.
It actually looks like another SD card slot.
Yeah.
It's that wide. Yeah, I mean, they could.
They might. I can't really predict that.
Yeah.
They would have to have their own reasons for doing it. I think they also have their own reasons for sticking with this.
Yeah,
proprietary.
they're also selling the Surface Dock, so that is compatible with that. So in order for them to change, they would not only have to change this, but all of those people who were planning on keeping their Surface Docks for a couple of years,
Yeah.
might be displeased.
Yeah.
Another question.
Can you just recap the price range and the corresponding specs?
I'm
with it?
so glad you asked. It's been
Surface
eating at me.
Book 2.
Surface Book 2.
Very expensive, but worth it.
Starts at $14.99 for the 13.5-inch model. On the 13.5-inch model and the 15-inch model, you can configure each of them at 256, 512 gigabytes, or 1 terabyte. That's all an SSD. It's a single SSD. So between those, and then from there, there's a difference. On the smaller one, you can get a 1050 instead of a 1060. On every 15-inch version, it's a 1060, 16 gigs of RAM, and then you configure the storage from there. 256, 512, or 1 terabyte. As configured with the terabyte, it's $3,300. That's super pricey. That's actually really just a function of how pricey SSD storage is.
Yeah.
Almost every manufacturer across the board, I know, like if you go configure a Razer laptop, it's the same thing. The only thing you can change is the capacity, and you can watch how much it jumps up. It's several $100s to add that much more SSD storage. That said, if you take considering all this does, and considering it's a gaming system, and considering everything else about it, the tablet detaching and all that, if you take the 512 gigabytes version, which is the same capacity we tested the 15-inch MacBook Pro at, it's only $100 more than the MacBook Pro with the same amount of storage. It's $2,899 as opposed to $2,799 for the MacBook Pro. So same 15-inch, same deal. This is a tablet and a gaming system for $100 more. Obviously, the Apple loyalists who don't want to switch from macOS or just love their MacBook so much or need the Apple software that only runs on macOS aren't going to switch. But it's hard to argue like form and function wise for 100 more with the same amount of storage, which is a better deal per se if you can use and like Windows.
So for all these reasons, we're giving this our editor's choice.
We
rated it 4 stars. This really is an excellent machine.
Yes.
It has fairly limited, it's for people who really want the best, so it's not going to be for everyone.
Yeah.
But for those people, this really has, some would say more than Apple offers.
And why 4, not 4.5 or 5? There are some finicky things. The 16 gigs of RAM is one of the cons I mentioned. Fine for most people, fine for gaming. There's people who want more. There's some finicky stuff with the detaching. Sometimes it hasn't done this in days, but when I first got it, it kept telling me I needed to resolve certain actions before I could detach, which it was programs as benign as like Edge and the store. And that was a little annoying because I had to go into Task Manager and like force them out. It hasn't done that to me in a while though, so I'm not really sure what that was about. Also, the discrete graphics it was showing up in Device Manager, but it wasn't quite launching in games. It was running on integrated, and I really couldn't get it to force the switch for a while. I had to mess with it. So a couple finicky things. All of those issues also stopped completely, so I'm not really sure what happened. I messed with them enough, so if you don't know how to troubleshoot off the bat, you might. So, just a couple things here and there that stopped me from really going like full 100% score on it. But obviously a lot to like as well.
We do want to take more questions, but we are going to wrap up here. So again, this is Surface Book 2. Please ask us your questions on Twitter or Facebook. Read the full review at PCMag.com. We thank you very much for watching, and we'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Time with yet another One Cool Thing.